Johnny was a friend of mine, although I did not know him long. Looked into his eyes and he was gone. Making no mistake, knowing what's at stake, he came back to this place. A place called America, rays of light and love shining down upon thee. Johnny was a friend of mine, although I did not know him long. Looked into his eyes and he was gone. We are free, we are America. We are free, we are America. He was a working man, doing the best he can, trying to find his way through. Realized the divine plan, cried out for every man, the hour is at hand. Johnny was a friend of mine, although I did not know him long. Looked into his eyes and he was gone. We are free, we are America. 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 And now it's up to me, freedom for eternity, to carry this torch which has been passed. Light of 1,000 suns shines down on everyone. It's the light of God that never fails. Johnny was a friend of mine, although I did not know him long. Looked into his eyes and he was gone. Feel it in your heart, sing America I am. Oh, America I am. Forever embraced by the rainbow of light and love. Oh, America I am. The light expanding in America. The light protecting America. Awaken now, the choice is yours. Oh, world victorious. We are free, we are America. We are free, we are America. And you know it's true. We are free, we are America. We are free, we are America. And the light shines through. We are free, we are America. We are free, we are America. We are free, we are America. And you know it's true. We are free, we are America.
Hello, my name is John Michael Chambers, and welcome to Making Sense of the Madness as we address the news behind the news on this daily broadcast. And we do broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And this program is made possible in part by our sponsor and good friends over at Sovereign Advisors. We got a great show today. We're going to jump right into it. Joining us today is Lior, Sher, and Dr. Lodi, joining us once again live from the beautiful country of Thailand. And I'll be right back.
Buy gold, buy silver, buy now. But buyer beware. Protect and preserve your retirement assets with gold, silver, and alternative paper opportunities. Surveys indicate that Wall Street doesn't have Main Street's best interest in mind. Many Eastern European countries are repatriating their gold, and the wealthy are stockpiling gold as a hedge against currency devaluation and inflation that's coming. Economist Dr. Kirk Elliott was nominated for 2 Trump committee positions and is the founder of Sovereign Advisors. When was the last time you consulted with an economist to secure your financial freedom? The global financial reset is underway. Secure your retirement assets today. Buy gold. Buy silver. Buy now and contact Dr. Kirk Elliott today. Click in the description section below and gain access to Dr. Elliott's free audio-video modules and precious metals report, and schedule your free consult today. Sovereign Advisors, wisdom for our times.
You know, just a few comments before we bring on Kelly Ruiz, The Great Awakening, and then our 2 guests. I don't know if you noticed, but the news narratives are beginning to shift in 2 regards. One, of course, today is the last day of the federal guidelines from Washington, D.C. being lifted. You know, all the social distancing and all these things from D.C., leaving all powers now up to the governors. So we already talked about this. We're going to be able to see now who's who and what's what. You know, who wants to force tyranny and restrict our civil liberties and our rights, and which ones are just eager to get America back open again and get Americans back to the business of life and living. So that's one pendulum shift in the news. The second one, of course, by no accident, we're starting to hear, as I talked about weeks and weeks ago, we will start to hear more and more about IG-1, the Comey report, I'll call it, and IG-2, the Horowitz report, the FISA findings, and now this is dripping out and in pretty strong drips. In fact, the fire hose is getting turned on, thank you, Sidney Powell, with freeing General Flynn remaining free. He will be free, he will remain free, either via process or pardon. And this is imminent, and this is great news. And then they'll go on the attack. So it all ties together. And again, John Durham's report, from all indications, no one knows for certain, will be out late summer, early fall. And it's not going to be just a report. We're expecting indictments and arrests. And again, Q has told us the first indictments will shock the world, is I believe what Q had stated way back. But, you know, what I see happening, in addition to the shock of the world, and certainly this may be a shock, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these following names in the news: Comey, Stroke, Page, McCabe, Clapper, and others. So it's fascinating. It's a wonderful narrative shift. And now I'll shift the narrative, and let's talk about the Great Awakening. Many of you know Kelly Ruiz. She's my co-host, and she's joining us today with a healthy segment for the news behind the news. Welcome to the program, Kelly.
Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm waiting for my brand new Mac. I'll have that after Friday's show, so I'm sort of shooting from the hip here, but I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Well, I'm good, but I wanted to bring up some points here about Mike Pence is now trending, because apparently VP Pence went into the Mayo Clinic and he was not under the proper procedures with the mask. And so there's some contradictory information going on as to the Mayo Clinic saying, well, they briefed him beforehand to wear a mask and he didn't wear the mask, but that was not the case. And the reason why I'm bringing up the mask issue is it seems like things really are getting worse. As you said about in the context of, you know, who we're really going to see who the enemy is. Because my husband went to work last night. As you know, he works in the ICU unit. And he got stopped going into the hospital, and they said, where's your mask? You need a mask on the way in. And so the policies and procedures, as we talked about the other day, even with Sandy, our dear friend, whose friend was in the hospital over your way that had the MRSA, again, they're switching the rules that they couldn't bring clothing in for a patient. So things are changing day by day. My husband was like, I didn't know about this policy, and he keeps up to date with everything. So, and same thing with Mike Pence. And why now? Why now are we having to have people or medical professionals enter the hospital with masks? I don't know. If we're now trying to open the country, that seems to contradict what is being said by President Trump, Governor DeSantis, and many of the other good governors of the United States.
Yep, the next few months, in my opinion, are going to be like that, and many more areas, ripple effects and confusions, and there'll be some model states and examples. It's going to go through a period of confusions and challenges. But again, let's get the country open. We'll get through all that. And I just keep focusing on the governors and the mayors, because we're going to know who's who and what's what. And again, as I said yesterday, Attorney General Barr will be knocking on some doors. I think this taste of tyranny doesn't taste so well, and we need to be moving away from this. But I think the next couple of months are going to be, besides the fact that the second quarter numbers when they come out are going to be abysmal, it's going to be horrible, it's going to be unbelievably bad in terms of the economic fallout from a full quarter of no employment, basically, and no production. You have that, and then all these issues you're raising and more. So buckle down, folks. Just focus on the truth, follow the law, and know that we're going to get through this next phase of this stuff. And focus on the good news about FISA and Flynn, because there'll be plenty more of that coming.
Exactly. And again, John, over here in my area, like I said, we're having Walmart, that they're now having us stand outside 6 feet apart with the masks outside. And this is really, I don't know, it's just really, after we see yesterday, Governor Ron DeSantis came on. He said, we're in phase 1. We're taking baby steps, but we're going to go ahead and start opening 25% of the businesses on Monday. So now if you want to go out to eat, if you want to do, go shopping or whatever, you can do so. However, the other facilities, such as the hair places to go get a haircut, nail salons are not going to be opened, massage, places like that, they're kind of going to hold back on. But again, to go back to the beach, over here, our beach parking lot was open, but you should see the restrictions, John, on what they're putting out, that, you can go to the beach, you can swim, and you can walk so long as you're 6 feet apart, but you cannot lay out a towel, you cannot sit down, you cannot bring a cooler, which that's crazy, because again, we're going to have a bunch of emergency personnel coming to the beach this summer when it reaches 90 degrees and people are in the water and they can't go reach for their cooler to go get a bottled water. So it's some of these things that are, as you said, draconian, but there's no common sense in there. There's no rhyme or reason. We need to get off of this.
And let me just interject something real quick, and I'll be very brief. But as this period of time moves on, to counter all that, because nobody likes these draconian measures except extreme liberals, what's also happening through the next few months going to be are successful treatments and cures through various different modalities. More and more reports about WHO and what Dr. Fauci, Birx, and the boogeymen have been reporting is going to be refuted, that they were dead wrong on all these issues, and so forth and so on. And slowly but surely, people will get more comfortable. And to the point of Dr. Tempany earlier this week with these masks, she said these masks, and she's a medical doctor, she's a doctor, they don't really do anything. She said it's like putting up a yard fence to hold mosquitoes back. So I think from as the truths come out and Trump maneuvers and strategizes, the American people know right from wrong, and I think some of this tyranny will slip away.
Yes, and back to your point, John, President Trump in the beginning was starting a rate your doctor type system, because I think that's all going to play out as to how the doctors are going to work. Are they going to go with, more of a natural remedy, or more of like a less invasive type thing, a less invasive procedure, or even the vaccinations? Because last night I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine who watches our show every day. And she was talking about how one of the hospitals here, who is notorious for this, and I know this personally, I've heard it from multiple people, a doctor who literally starts doing operations on people, surgeries for cardiac issues when they don't even have cardiac issues going on. And she's a prime example. She went into the hospital, she had some shortness of breath. They ran a stress test on her, and apparently the doctor would not let her leave the hospital until she signed up for an appointment to get an angiogram. And she kept saying, no, but I want to get a second opinion. And he kept saying to her, well, you could have a heart attack right now. And so she ended up leaving. She made the appointment, left, went home, canceled the appointment, went and got a second opinion. Turns out there was nothing wrong with her. And, you know, they were going to go ahead and they were planning on scheduling her for a surgery. And this is what's going on. So, and this is somebody, you know, is a little up there in age. She's a very young 70-year-old. So, but she, you know, is concerned because, you know, people are bullied. They're bullied in the doctor's office, and this cannot go on. And so I just wanted to make that point before we head into everything else.
Yep. Well, I'm glad people need to make their own decisions. People need to get second opinions, perhaps visit integrative doctors that combine two different practices to prevent, cure, and help people. Look, it's a mess, but I think that it's good news in that all of these things are coming to light. Conversations with regards to big pharma and the entities like the WHO and the UN and Gates, these are becoming, and vaccinations are becoming trending subjects where they hadn't been at all. So that's the good news in this, but you know, we're stirring up the pots. The stuff's flying all over the place right now.
Oh, it's flying, all right. And I just wanted to give a really big shout out to Annie Vanderstill for interviewing me yesterday. And if anybody gets a chance to catch the interview, and she did a great job at promoting News Behind the News. So I thank her because, you know, again, censorship is a real problem right now. And I witnessed it firsthand last night when I saw Annie after she finished the completion of the show. That evening, we were on there with the guests that were on the side, you know, commenting in. And they were shadow banning her, and she put it on the internet. And I thought it was kind of odd because I was on there chit-chatting, and all of a sudden I see like one comment by her and she disappeared. I thought that's kind of odd, but you know. So it turned out that they are shadow banning, and John, she really loves our show as well. And we need to promote within our community so we can start growing the truthers out there, because that's what we are. Every day on our show, we get the truth out.
Yeah, Ann Vandersteel is really good citizen journalist. She knows her stuff, and she gets all the facts and all the details and some hard-hitting questions and reporting. That's why they're messing with her. It's just too much truth. She's a great patriot. As you know, we had her at Sarasota Patriots with General Flynn's brother, Joe Flynn. And she interviewed me like almost 4 years ago with Bill Mitchell when my book first came out, 3-some-odd years ago. And I'll be on another channel with her tomorrow for a full 45-minute segment, the Nemos News Network. And Kelly, as you know, we're trying to get the schedules coordinated, but we're going to have her on our show as well. She's a great patriot, and she does great work. And I saw your interview last night. It was very good.
She really does. So, but let's move on now so that we can get to our first slide. It's a Q post because Q was up and running last night again and putting out a lot of posts. So let's move on to the first Q post. Okay, I'm going to read this Q post because it's really important that it be read, and it said to like actually take your time in listening to this. So when I read it to you, please just close your eyes or just envision this as much as you can. It says, we are the silent, irregular war against an invisible enemy running on insurgency against the U.S. Irregular warfare is far more varied than conventional conflict, hence the importance of an intellectual framework that is coherent enough to provide guidance and flexible enough to adapt to circumstance. American counterinsurgency practice rests on a number of assumptions. That the decisive effort is rarely militarily, although security is an essential prerequisite for success, that our efforts must be directed to the creation of local and national governmental structures that will serve their populations and over time replace the efforts of foreign partners. That superior knowledge and in particular understanding of the human terrain is essential, that we must have the patience to persevere in what will necessarily prove long struggles. Insurgency, however, can and will flourish in the modern environment. The strains created by globalization, by the collapse of the weak state structures, by demographic, environmental, and economic pressures, by the ease of cooperation amongst insurgent groups and criminals, and by the appearance of destructive, radical ideology, all augur a period in which free and moderate government is at risk. So that was actually part one of the Q post. And Q wanted us to really sit and digest this. So I read it to everybody. And there's a part two that I'm going to go into. But I suggest that everybody just take a deep breath, go back over, read that very slowly. You go to qmap.pub and you can get that information. And I also wanted to say, as part of that, Don Jr. this morning, he put out a tweet, and his tweet said, and I'm going to say, holy crap, instead of what if he said, the Team Comey scum in charge of this stuff were bad, but they're actually much worse than he actually anticipated. So we can see here where Q is trying to tell us about the counterinsurgency, and Don Jr. putting out a tweet that Comey was much worse. And this was actually in reference to the interview that the FBI conducted with General Flynn in 2017. They basically were just trying to get him fired, get him out of there, say things that, you know, weren't necessarily true. And this was an honorable man, a general in our military. And so we see that the destruction of what can go on when everything could be left run amok.
It was a perjury trap. It is backfired and boomerang, just like all the attempts against President Trump and ultimately we the people and Kavanaugh and the whole circus of stuff from the campaign through today. That one followed suit, did it not? Perjury trap, violated all the policies. They've got all the evidence. Thank goodness General Flynn brought on Sidney Powell, and now this boomerangs. Flynn will remain free, and we're going after them. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, because this has to happen,
Exactly.
as we well know, and you've heard on mainstream media, but it's a valid point to say again, if they can do this to General Flynn, an American hero, a three-star general, who put his life on the line for this country, if they can do this to him and to the President of the United States, a duly elected president, imagine what they can do to us. That's the soundbite, but it's worth repeating. So we're going to take them down. They're going to be taken down now. That's what's coming.
That's exactly it. And General Flynn, he used to follow me before my account was taken down, and he's been very silent on Twitter. The only thing he does is he switches his background picture, and we kind of analyze it in his communication. But he's actually back for the first time. 5 days ago he posted, and yesterday he posted the video of a flag. So that's really cool. We welcome him back. But I know, John, our time is short, and I'm going to have to move ahead. So I'm actually going to skip those Q posts because there's something that I really wanted to hit that's really, really important. So let's just move to slide number 6 really quick. U.S. coronavirus death toll surges 60,000 and 100 bodies found in a truck outside of a New York City funeral home. This is really, really disgusting, John. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up of what's going on up there. Basically, these bodies were found because, remember, Bill de Blasio, Warren Wilhelm. That's his real name, folks. He comes out of Operation Paperclip. He's a Nazi. This is Nazis in America. Was not even allowing the Jews to worship in their temple. He was not even allowing people to go to do the funerals. So look what happens. We have 100 bodies built up, and you know what? They threw them in U-Haul vans, and we're letting them decompose outside. I mean, how can you do this? I don't know. It's just, it's disgusting, and it goes everything against humanity. Really, it does.
The once great state of New York is now being run by Nazi. You've got de Blasio, you've got the other one, Cuomo, you've got Chucky Schumer. You can keep New York. And I was born and raised there, but until that place gets new leadership and redirected, what has New York become? The once great state of New York? It's garbage infested, it's crowded, it's crime infested, the taxes are through the roof. And you've got these nutcases sitting in office now begging Trump for $7.2 billion. Good luck with that program. All right, let's move on with the show. Thank you. Kelly, you just have a closing comment? Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, tomorrow then I'm going to play a video because this video is going to be so shocking that it ties along with the 100 bodies that were found. And I can guarantee you that we're now going to have a lot more people that are going to be jumping on the Trump train because they have had it up to here with Warren Wilhelm, Cuomo, and all these other governors that are just really destroying the states and destroying the people. But we will stand strong, John. We are not going to lose this fight.
Absolutely. They're going to sit out or they're going to vote the other party. So boomerang, boomerang. All right, we've got great guests. We've got a big time difference, and we appreciate our guest waiting. So let's talk with Lior Sher. She's a serial entrepreneur in the diverse fields of healthcare, biomedical, and software technologies. She's an attorney by training. Lior is the founder and CEO of Vitamin C International Consortium Institute. Lior is also the founder and CEO of Polls Unfiltered, a free web and app interactive social media technology that I speak about at the closing of each and every show. Visit pollsunfiltered.com, and we're happy to welcome back to our show Lior Sher. Welcome, Lior.
Good morning, John and Kelly. A pleasure to be back. We have so much to discuss about this paradigm shift because it has to do with a false medical paradigm. And people are tired of the fake news that ignited the fear to control us. And now we're coming back fast and furious, and it's furious over our freedom. So what's been going on in the last week or two since the draconian measures that have been implemented across the globe trying to control us, and most of them, as Kelly indicated, lack any banal common sense. So anyone with an authority of any kind, of a badge power, implementing these blinded policies that make no sense. Private communities with homeowners associations are in complete lockdown, not allowing any visitors. So people cannot have friends or family members in their homes. How far is this going to go? So the bottom line is that lies have no legs, and facts are starting to come out. And this is happening all across the world right now. But what's happening as well as the scientists and the physicians, as well as the attorneys that are trying to challenge the authorities, the establishment, and the status quo and the false paradigm, they're actually being falsely imprisoned. They are Baker acted. They're being demoted. They're being let go of their positions and ridiculed. And this is happening now in our country and in European countries. We're not talking about some dictatorship countries, but the dictatorship and tyranny is now happening across the globe. In the last week or so, two physicians from California, Dr. Erickson and Dr. Masihi, ER physicians from Bakersfield, dared to speak out about the true facts, about the actual death rates associated with COVID-19. And they're as low as 0.12 to 0.002%. Yet what is being reported is completely, different. Furthermore, the number of people actually infected with COVID-19 is approximately 55 times greater than the reported cases. What does it mean? It means that there is a large segment of the population has natural antibodies and they're asymptomatic, and maybe the condition that is being created, the COVID-19 monster, is actually not as bad as it purported to be. Furthermore, there are physicians and nurses coming from the front lines of New York reporting patients are dying in the hallways. They're not being attended to by the personnel. And in addition to that, being treated potentially for the wrong kind of condition. They're being treated for respiratory disease with ventilators that is causing the cause of death, whereas the condition that is being presented is fundamentally different than has ever been seen before, and is more analogous to high altitude condition that is needed, cannot be and should not be treated with ventilators. So certainly there's a lot to discuss today, and I'm delighted to welcome back Dr. Thomas Lodi from Thailand that can hopefully help us shed some unfiltered light on these situations. So Dr. Lodi, welcome back.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
This is John. Welcome to the program. I just want to introduce you to our audience. Dr. Thomas Lodi is the founder of Oasis of Healing and Oasis International. For the first 10 years of his 30-year medical career, Dr. Lodi worked in conventional settings as an internal medicine specialist and urgent care physician. Dr. Lodi is a licensed as a homeopathic medical doctor in the state of Arizona and is licensed as an allopathic medical doctor in the state of New York, and joins us, as Lior said, from Thailand. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here. Very happy.
Excellent. I'm sure you've been following the reports from the two physicians in California, and as soon as their videos come out, they're being taken out and censored by YouTube, and pretty much every social media that there is. So shed us some light, please, on this situation. How deadly and how dangerous is this coronavirus, and what are the real facts?
Well, I almost feel like I'm in a movie, but it's one of those movies I can't find the exit. It's madness. For example, though Dr. Erickson and the other doctor, they own several urgent care centers. They were just presenting data. They simply were presenting data, and they had over 5,000 patients that they had actually tested, and they found out that the prevalence, and what prevalence means is the number of people in any population at any one time that have the disease. So they found out the prevalence, as you said, was about 50 times higher than had discovered with the normal PCR testing. PCR tested it around 7,900 or something, and where they found it up way high, up like 400,000, 300,000. So what that means is when you want to figure out mortality rates, you divide. It's a very simple thing. You divide the number of people that died by the number of cases, and that gives you the percentage of people that are dying. So the percentage of people that are dying, like you said, 0.12 to 0.02%. Whereas the influenza, the annual flu that we experience every year, is about 0.1%. And by the way, annually on planet Earth, including last year, we have anywhere from 500,000 to 800,000 deaths from the flu. And we're not doing any hiding. We're not wearing masks or anything like that. So the question is, how deadly is this? And it was not only their data, but the data from Santa Clara County, where they actually accumulated their data. They did a study. They had an IRB, which is a way of, it's called Institutional Review Board with Stanford University. In other words, it makes it, they looked at the ethics of it. They made sure that everything was, all the testing, the equipment they were using was standard, it met all the standards, so they gave them permission to do the test. So it was in conjunction with Stanford University, and they came out with the exact thing, 0.12, 0.2%, okay? So low test. LA County, same thing. And LA, you would say, okay, well, Santa Clara is different. People live further apart. It's kind of rural. So let's look at, maybe that's why. So LA County, where it's not that way, but LA County has the exact same data. And then guys, were in Bakersfield. But also Dr. Cuomo, yeah, maybe I should call him Dr. Cuomo. But Governor Cuomo said that when they did their testing of 3,000 people in New York City, they had 1 out of 5 New Yorkers was positive, which again brought them up to the same mortality, 0.2, 0.02, even less than the flu. So the question is, how deadly is this? Not very deadly, and that is keeping in mind that they're also artificially raising the number of people that are being counted as having died from COVID. So, no one really knows. In medicine, there's only one way to know why someone died, and that is to do an autopsy. If you don't do an autopsy, you cannot say what was the primary cause of death, then the secondary cause, the tertiary, this caused that, caused this. You don't know. You just don't know. You have to assume, he had cancer and pneumonia. What did he die from, the cancer or the pneumonia? What was the cause of death, right? So, anyway, so you do autopsies. No autopsies are being done. As you know, they're burning these bodies.
How?
So
and these are great.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The answer to the question is not very. I don't think it's very deadly.
Well, and I appreciate the clarification. And I think another thing that is very important to compare here is we discussed California versus New York, whereas obviously it's going to be representative. We're talking about massive data that has been validated by Stanford Medical School and university. So furthermore, there is the data that's coming from Europe, from different countries that have been under lockdown versus countries that didn't implement the lockdown. How does this data compare to countries such as Sweden that has not implemented lockdown versus Norway that had?
Exactly. Back virtually statistically no difference. Okay, and that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing two Scandinavian countries right next to each other. And as you said, one had and one didn't, and we're really seeing no differences in what's happening. And that's because, but again, the thing that we have to look at even a little more carefully is that when we're saying someone with a case, COVID-19, what do we mean by that? And is it confirmed? How are we confirming it? And that's a whole other bag of worms, I'm telling you. When you start opening these worms, these bags, it's crazy because we don't really know. And then maybe you want to get into that or talk about that. But basically, when we look at Spain, Italy, and every one of them, we're having the same percentage. It's not a high mortality rate. It's no more than the annual flu. By the way, the American Academy of Emergency Medicine the following day came out and said that they don't agree with Dr. Erickson. Of course, they had to do that. They had to follow the party line because they are the authorities. So they kind of, and as you know, I haven't seen that on anybody's news. I didn't see it on CNN or Fox. I didn't see it anywhere. It's not.
Well, furthermore, there was another report coming out from a hospital in New York by Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel, an ER and critical care physician who has been demoted or removed from the ICU because he dared to speak out from what he was observing. And that is the symptoms that he observed in the COVID-19 patients were nothing like he's ever seen before in pneumonia patients. So they were systematically treating everyone and putting everyone pretty much on ventilators, which are causing the damage and potential cause of death in a situation where ventilators should not be used. And I think it's important for people to understand that treating someone with symptoms of altitude sickness, although they need oxygen, they do not need the pressure of a ventilator, which will cause the harm. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I actually know about that particular doctor, and there was even one other one too. And basically what they're finding is that when we breathe in oxygen, it goes into our lungs, changes, the carbon dioxide in our blood goes onto the red blood cell, goes into the lung, and the oxygen goes onto the red blood cell, and then it carries it to our body. Well, what's happening is the oxygen is not getting into the blood. It's just not getting into the blood. So it's not, so in typical end-stage pulmonary lung death, respiratory failure in the ICU, it's called ARDS, okay, respiratory distress syndrome. In that kind of situation, lungs are really tired. You've got to have a ventilator in. You've got to be mechanically ventilating the lungs because the person can't breathe, and you got to be putting high pressure of oxygen in there. Well, in this situation, what we're seeing is that that's not even the problem. They have strength. The lungs are able to breathe. Okay, that you can test you can put this thing on the finger and find out that the pulse is okay. Everything's okay. The oxygen. There are two scenarios to do that. Number one, they found the glycoprotein on the coat of the COVID that can actually knock that off, can knock the oxygen off and not allow it to attach, okay? And they also found the same thing happens at 60 gigahertz of 5G. 5G at 60 gigahertz does not allow oxygen. It blocks the electrons that bind the two oxygen atoms together. They cannot bind. So those two specific scenarios. Now, I don't know if they really found a glycoprotein or they just kind of came up with that story because 5G does the exact same thing. And that's what I think we were seeing. If you recall back in the early days, like maybe November, you'd see pictures of people in Wuhan standing at a bus stop and they just fell over. You know, you don't just fall over with the flu.
So just to simplify it in a layman term, we have a deprivation of oxygen delivery to the cells, obviously, which affects blood flow, affects our mitochondrial activity. So we're treating now people for a pneumonia, which is potentially a completely false medical paradigm that is causing more harm than good. And then it's being reported as COVID-19 related death, whereas the death actually was caused due to the wrong therapy. And
it's
the
ventilator.
Right, exactly. So COVID-19 could have been treated very easily with something else, just like maybe we're treating altitude sickness.
Yeah, well, exactly. But except, when you go up to altitude sickness, it would be the same thing as if you were in an airplane and the pressure dropped and the oxygen mask came down. You know, because at high altitudes, instead of being 20% oxygen in the air, which we have on Earth here, I mean, on flat land, near sea level, it's much less. And so we're not getting enough oxygen. But in this case, because of either the COVID glycoprotein or the 5G, the oxygen's getting in there, but it can't bind. So you put the ventilator in there, and you mechanically ventilate the lungs, and you put high pressure, you wind up blowing out the little air sacs in the lung. You wind up killing the person because of the high pressures. They didn't need that. They didn't need that because no matter how much pressure you put in there, the oxygen's not binding. That's the problem. And so guess what helps? Guess what helps? It turns out that intravenous vitamin C helps. In this case, because we use that here.
And in fact, I was speaking to another physician that I work closely and have known for a while that is treating patients for cancer and COVID-19 with high dose IVC protocol, vitamin C protocol, that she reported that she's seeing significant results with COVID-19 patients. Yeah. So the truth again is being suppressed, and the paradigm continues.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a cat.
There's a cat out there. I think it's in heat or something. I'm not sure. But.
Somebody crying out for freedom. It's the world crying out for freedom. We miss freedom.
It's an American. No, there's no American.
Yeah, let's talk for a little bit further about the false numbers. So now we have false numbers as cause-related, the deaths associated, and also the number of people that actually have been, the number of people that actually have been not diagnosed, carrying the disease, and are completely asymptomatic because they have the natural antibodies for it. How does this affect, or the term, please explain, herd immunity?
Yeah, that's a very important concept. The term herd immunity is actually used to justify vaccinations, okay? Because the idea is, imagine if you have a population of people and a large majority of them, or a sufficient majority of them, have already the antibodies. They're already immune. They can't catch it, so therefore they can't pass it on. So it kind of gets stuck, and that's what herd immunity is. So the justification by vaccination people is let's vaccinate enough people so that it can't spread. If somebody has it, it just won't spread throughout the community. So it turns out that the really amazing thing is that with this particular virus, they already know that if one person has it, they affect 2 people. So you can get 2 people infected. Whereas measles, if you have measles, you can infect 18 people. So if you can infect 18 people, that means in order to have herd immunity, you have to have 95% of the people immune. So everybody should get measles shots? No, measles is not dangerous. In fact, if you got the measles shot, the measles immunization, you're immune for 2 years, 3 years, and then you're not anymore. And all the new measles outbreaks are by people who had the measles shot. But if you had the measles for real, you're immune for life, all right? So that's what happened. But anyway, with COVID, since there's only 2 people, that are usually infected. That means that 60% of the population needs to be immune in order to have herd immunity. So we already know that 81% of the people will not die if they get it. 81%, only 20% would. So those 20% at risk, take them out, put them in a nice place, give them food, and give them fruit, vegetables, let them hang out, be together, have their own hospitals, their own COVID hospitals, and separate those that are infected, blah, 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 test them all, do all of that. And this other 80%, let them get infected, develop the antibodies, keep the economy up, and we've solved the problem, and we've used herd. Now these guys will be immune for life for this particular mutation of the virus. Of course, if it mutates, they'll have to get it again. But at least you accomplished herd immunity and you didn't crash the economy. Now that's what you would do if you were serious.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, still the fear factor continues with promoting, as Kelly was mentioning earlier, the masks and all the PPE. And right from the inception of it, and again, I'm not a physician, I did not believe that any of these PPE and the masks are actually going to protect us. Because first of all, what are we being protected against? We have not tested these particular masks to be valid and effective for this particular virus. So what is your position on that? What are your thoughts?
When we're talking about the virus as being 100 nanometers, a nanometer is a billionth of a meter, okay? And these masks have little pores in them that are micrometers, okay? It's 1,000 times bigger. So 1,000 nanometers can fit through 1 micrometer. So like that was a great analogy that someone said a few moments ago. It's like trying to keep the mosquitoes out with a chain fence in front of your house. Okay, it just won't work. So it doesn't work. It doesn't help. And what it has become, it's become a symbol. Just like I think what the cabal likes to do is to get people on they use symbols. Like the words they're using. What is it? Home. What's the term they're using? Staying at home, where you are.
Social distancing and
stay-at-home
orders.
And wearing the mask. It's symbolic. It's symbolic. It's crazy. I look at the news and the pandemic special. I mean, they're lit.
This is a good time for me to chime in, Dr. Lodi. I want to thank you very much. This is great and disturbing content, I might add. Here are my sound bites to the points that you're reflecting upon right now. What this is, and I know our viewers understand this is a clandestine crimes against humanity is really what this is. And from the 30,000-foot view, because what you're talking about here, you're laying down some facts versus the fiction we were told. Let me continue just for a moment, because there's 2 or 3 steps to this. One, preceding to the event, right, we're told by Fauci and the boogeymen and Birx and the WHO that 2 million people are going to die and all these numbers. Well, they were dead wrong on all the forecasts before it even really began, number one. Number two, based on what you're reporting as well, is there was also the tests that they initiated were flawed, creating false positives, jacking up numbers. Again, theme here is facts versus fiction. Then, as you talked about just a few moments ago, the people who are dying, they're attributing on the death certificate COVID-19 more often than they should. So you've got fact versus fiction from inception through until the very end, and it's really unbelievable. And it is a crime against humanity, as the way I see it, fudging the test, fudging the death certs, forecasting wrong information, and it's all because of people control, population control, forced testing coming our way, and forced vaccinations. That's the challenge. This is UN's Agenda 2030, and you're making it very clear, Dr. Lodi, because you're laying down some facts and some brilliant analysis versus all the BS that we have been fed. Kelly, would you like to weigh in with the doctor?
Yes, I wanted to first thank Dr. Lodi for his medical expertise and for really getting this message out, because a lot of people, they want to hear it from a professional. It's hard sometimes when we go out and say it because we don't have the MD or any of the credentials behind our names. We're not nurses, we're not doctors. So it's hard to get people. But it's true. It's like we had James Grunvig, who writes for the Epoch Times and works with Dr. Tenpenny, talk about the 5G component to the coronavirus. This occurred about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. At least it was at the beginning of the coronavirus, where he was talking about the exact same thing you said about how the birds were dying in Wuhan and the people were just dropping dead. These were healthy people because of the deprivation of the oxygen. And I did have a question for you, Dr. Lodi, because I do know some hospitals have the hyperbaric chambers. Is that anything that you would suggest, or is that just something that's like a temporary fix?
Well, it'd be temporary, but that's all you really need. You really just need something temporary until the person's physiology is back. So absolutely, hyperbarics, hyperbaric is so underutilized. You know why? Because it works. I mean, for example, 5 years after a stroke, you can regain 85% 85% by doing hyperbarics daily for about a month, 2 months.
Wow.
And this is hidden. They don't do it in hospitals. So, yes, you're right. Hyperbarics would be a fantastic thing to do in this situation.
And this is a great point, because I'm actually well familiar with it through my late better half, Dr. Richard Davis, who was a hyperbaric officer in the Navy and treated the Navy SEALs with this when they came back to regenerate them. So It is a very effective protocol, and that is the first thing that came to mind when I discovered it was like a high altitude condition. So why not to treat some people with something that is so fairly inexpensive and so effective? But that leads me to one last comment that I would like to highlight today, and that is what's going on currently in Germany. And I call it the rising of the next Reich, potentially. But Miss Banner, who is an attorney in Germany, she dared to address the flagrant and unconstitutional infringement on our human rights and civil liberties. And because of that, she's been involuntarily held in a psychiatric institution. She's been Baker Acted. This is happening today in Germany. This is really, this should be raising our every sense of fear of what's coming up next to America.
And it's not just her, it seems that the German professional class, doctors, lawyers, politicians, are pretty much aware of what's going on. They get it, much more than in America. I don't know what's going on in America. It's more, I don't know yet, because I'm not there. But from what I'm reading, what's blowing my mind is that the German people are waking up. And so we're talking about Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, the German-speaking countries. And they're being involuntarily incarcerated because there's a new law, and it's the same law. It's the same law that was passed in East Germany and the Soviet Union. And that is one doctor, one signature can have you institutionalized in the psychiatric ward. Now the same law is being passed, as I understand, in the UK. Going back to the UK and the original model that predicted 2.2 million people, that was with Ferguson. And, Ferguson was with the Imperial College, and they're connected to Gavi, and they're connected to the WHO and UNICEF and all that sort of thing. Their biggest contributors are the British government and Bill Gates. Very, very interesting. But anyway, they now have that same law, or they're working on it, something. One doctor, one signature, and you're in a psychiatric hospital. So we're entering. This is Nazi Germany. This is Soviet Union. This is insane. This is madness. But you know what? No one in the U.S. knows it. I don't know why they don't know. Well, I guess we do. I hope we all wake up. I hope more people watch this stuff.
People don't realize how real this is. And I can tell you, without getting into too much details, I experienced something very similar in the United States personally. So this is not a hearsay. But as you said, one physician can sign a paper and off you're sent to the gulags. This is what was instituted in the United States post 9/11 on commercial airplanes and carriers. And at this point, one flight attendant, and we need to be very careful how we refer to them. One flight attendant may not like what he overheard that you were saying or the way you look, and he can or she can determine that you are a threat, a security threat, and they will actually turn around the plane that was in preparing to take off to bring the flight back and escort you off the plane without rhyme or reason, and you have no right to defend yourself or to speak out. And this is happening. I know it for a fact, and this is pretty much analogous to the current situation. So it leads me to the next question that everyone is wanting to know. Why? What's the ulterior motives? What is the truth? So with that, I'd like just to mention that we'd love to have you back, Dr. Lodi, to discuss the truth, the unfiltered truth, and to the whys. And the whys, I will just leave you with that. It's Agenda 21, it's Agenda 2030, and it's ID 2020.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much, Lior and Dr. Lodi. We definitely would love to have you back, and stay safe in Thailand. I'm going to get back to Thailand as soon as we can travel, and so I bid you kap ku krap, kap ku krap.
Tomorrow we're allowed to leave our villages, so it's great.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lior, and thank you, Kelly Ruiz. We'll see you tomorrow, Kelly, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much. And I'll be right back.
The globalists now tremble as Trump and this movement threatens their totalitarianism world government. President Donald J. Trump leads America's second revolution. Trump and the Resurrection of America? Pick up your copy today.
Very important and trending and critical subjects for all of humanity. Thank you, Lior. And I love the passion and the brilliance and the common sense of the good Dr. Lodi joining us from Thailand. We'd love to have you back next week to continue the discussion and take it into some new territory. If you like what you're hearing on News Behind the News, click in the description section below and help keep us moving. We're moving on to 4 other platforms in addition to YouTube, and we're going to be adding other elements I'll be announcing down the line, and we could use your support. We do have a sponsor, Sovereign Advisors, but it takes a lot to get this done. So anything you can contribute is greatly appreciated. $5, $10, $20, $50, $100, whatever you can do. And thank you all, those that have been contributing. We really, really greatly appreciate it. And be sure to visit Polls Unfiltered. Remember, it is the premier polling app, unfiltered, uncensored polling. What a concept. So check out pollsunfiltered.com. Polls are conducted, I think, on a weekly basis. So check it out and start participating in the polls. All right, the Q pin. Well, you can pick up your Q pin. There are many different designs. Click in the description section below, and you can sport your Q pin like President Trump's sons, Donald Jr. and Eric Trump. Now, the Sarasota Patriots is a 501c4 not-for-profit Florida corporation, and each month the Sarasota Patriots holds now a global live stream event, and the first Tuesday of each month. So coming up next week, Tuesday, May 5th, join us, 6:30 p.m. You have to go register or subscribe to and follow on the YouTube channel for what you see on the screen here, Sarasota Patriots. And it's on their YouTube channel that this will be live streamed from. And we have a really, really good guest coming up for Tuesday's live stream. Let's get back to some powerful tools to help our president secure his 2020 landslide victory. And K. Carl Smith will help us do that. He is the nation's #1 diversity, engagement, keynote speaker, and strategist, empowering conservatives with confidence, knowledge, and skills to trump the race card and defeat socialism once and for all, because this is what we're dealing with, folks. They play the race card all the time, and we've got socialist communists running on the other side of the aisle, and we've got to defeat this. So please join us Tuesday, the 5th of May, SarasotaPatriots.org for more information. And joining us tomorrow in Studio A is Daniel and Chris Bolin of the Student Veterans Foundation. We're going to introduce them and the great work that they're doing. And also joining us tomorrow is K. Carl Smith. We're going to dive into K. Carl Smith's world a little bit, find out how long he's been at this, and a little bit about his great work as an American patriot. So join us each and every day for intelligent and insightful commentary and analysis as we connect the dots and help us all to make sense of the madness here on News Behind the News. And be sure to subscribe to this very channel. And if you like what you saw today, click the like button. It's important for our growth. You know what, folks? We're entering in some very uncharted waters. A lot of disruptive, uncomfortable truths were raised in great contrast to what Fauci, Birx, and the boogeymen have been telling us. Just be smart. Be smart. The light is at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be a little murky for a while. But anyway, share this channel to help awaken and inform others. Things are changing. The people, the patriots, yes, we are now the news. Each and every one of us have an awesome responsibility. And so we remember 3 things cannot long be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. Remember, my friends, freedom. Look in the mirror, because that's who it's up to. It's up to us. God bless us all. This is John Michael Chambers speaking with his voice. I want to thank you for spending this time here with me today. Stay the course, trust the plan, and remember, where we go one, we go all.